this week, and there is only one of them at this point. So you guys are done with the weekly assignments, and it's pretty much just working on the final forever now. So this week, unless I'm going crazy, yes, all right. So this week is an animatic, and basically what you're going to do for that is I'll show you, it's zoomed in so far. So I have, in keeping with the SpongeBob that we seem to have going today.
I wish
So this is like an example of a SpongeBob animatic, which obviously is a 2D animation, but you can set your 3D animation up pretty much the same way. So
I wish to register a complaint!
And you're just going to go in and start blocking out like the animations of
Yuck!
just like really
Hey lady, take your infested patty with you! Okay, no need to panic, Squidward. It's just a puny urchin. Everything's gonna be fine as long as you... Fuck it!
Just going through blocking in major emotions.
Squidward, I'm surprised at you. That little urchin wasn't hurting anyone. He's still one of Neptune's creatures, no matter how small he is.
Break it down so that you have this very
This is where the magic happens, little urchin. First, we turn up the heat, but don't make it too hot. Would you like to see a menu, monsieur? Okay, little guy, see you later. He is a little guy. Ouch.
Animate off of. Personally, I usually just let my stuff be shiny for a while so that it gets easier to look at and for me it's more useful. But again, if it's kind of easier for you to look at or you prefer having everything sort of like step from one spot to another, you honestly,
What the shrimp? Hey, what's going on here? Whoa, that's too hot!
Alright, anyway, because I could watch SpongeBob stuff for longer than is necessary. Alright, so again, basically just throw your clip into Maya with audio. You can import image planes with movies pretty much the same way that you can with static images. And if your clip has audio, it'll drag that into Maya. Alternately, you can just like import a little like WAV file or like MP4 or whatever. That's a video file. You can just import like an audio file directly in as well. And again, this is like a good place to at least start rigging your characters so you can sort of see, is there any extra functionality I need? Is perhaps something extremely broken that I can fix now? Always better to find that stuff week 6 than like week 9. And then this one, I'm not requiring you to render anything. I just want to play blast of, again, the full clip and get rid of any unnecessary stuff from your scene. I'll show you how to do that in a minute, like this is what I'm talking about. And please do include sound that is of a reasonable level that it can be heard on most speakers. Sometimes in some of the original clips or like reference that I looked at, some of them had audio that like wasn't really audible. So do double check that because it's a lot harder usually to tell what's going on in the animated scenes without any kind of audio. Apart from that, just like the more refined your animation is, the more points you're going to get for this. Also, just again, looking at like the more motion you block in, also the more points you're going to get. And then this is just me, again, sort of, if it were me personally, I would look at sort of working out kinks in your rig. And maybe, like if your rig is super broken, fixing that before doing a lot of animation, especially if fixing the rig, whatever you need to do to fix it is going to necessitate you redoing animation. It would make sense to redo less animation. But again, just kind of like things to think about. So point breakdowns for this is going to be how well does the character motion match the original clip. So are you, and that part of that is if they're doing anything super crazy with like hands, have you sort of like thought about how that would translate into your version of the clip? If they're walking, doing anything like that. The other thing that I'm going to look at is how complete and descriptive does the animatic feel, which is basically just like how much blocking have you actually done. Like if you have blocking for individual footsteps compared to like they're at one side of the room and they just sort of like pop up at the other side or like they slide over. That's basically just like giving you quantity or giving you points for like the sort of quantity of animation you've done, basically. And also, again, just like this would be a good place where like if you need to shift stuff around in your environment to look at like, well, a stick of celery can't jump as far as a human can walk. You can kind of start rearranging your environment at this point to match your characters and their size and scale and how they move, if that is something that you also need to do. For what to submit, basically just like a play blast with the audio and your animatic, and also please do submit your original video clip so I have something to compare it to. If you're so inclined, you can just submit 2 video clips, that's totally fine. If you want to do something like the SpongeBob clip where you took the final, or like the original video clip and like throw it in the corner or something like that, you're welcome to do that as well. And just submit 1 video file, but again, it doesn't really matter. I just do want to see your original clip somewhere in there. Any questions on any of that so far? All right. So I mentioned clean up extra stuff from the scene. Hopefully this actually drags in. Yay. All right. So assuming that like this is just like a random rigged character. So what do I mean from like extra stuff in your play blast? So for one, all of these controllers, if you have like a rig or if you're doing blend shapes, you want to get rid of all of these. So in this case, I have a display layer over here for them, so I can just turn them on and off at will. You can also go into the show menu and do show, turn off NURBS curves. Also go through and turn off stuff like if you have lights floating around in your scene that are obvious and like just there, turn those off, turn cameras off, image planes. I also don't want to see like joints. Basically I just want to see the geometry of your scene. So just turn pretty much everything else off. Also, if you're doing something with the resolution gate on your camera, I would also like this to be turned off for the final render. So what you can do is just go into your play blast settings, so like right click in the time slider, open up those settings, and just set the display size to be from render settings. And once you set that in your render settings to 1920 by 1080, you can get rid of the resolution gate, and then it's just going to render pretty much like it would a normal render without the resolution gate, and it'll just be like the final nice clip frame that you have, or like the clip size. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? All right. I will take points off if there's like a bunch of weird crap floating around in your scene, like controllers and stuff. And then the other thing, if you're looking to make your play blast look nice, it's not the thing I'm requiring, but it's super easy. Turn on, let's see if I can get, so there's like 2 settings I like for the viewport, and that is ambient occlusion. And that just like fakes, you can kind of see it's like faking some extra shadows in. That can help with contrast if your textures are kind of like blending into each other and hard to see. And you can also turn on anti-aliasing, which is going to go through and like smooth all your edges and make them look a little bit nicer. So again, not things I require, but it does just sort of look nicer in the end. But that's basically what's required for this week, is just the animatic. And then next week in class, we'll be going through and actually starting to do some crit on the actual finals and see, so you guys can start getting more feedback on that. So from here on out, crit will be with whatever you're submitting for the final and just sort of updated animations, etc. Any questions on that or what's due for the final? Yes?
Do you just want it to be like the basic Lambert, or do you want us like put like a base color and then just show it in the viewport?
I kind of don't care to an extent. It might be nice if you have some like, just spend maybe like 10 minutes throwing some like really basic color stuff on. If you want to do like temporary Lamberts, that's fine. If you want to start just like throwing in some temporary diffuse maps into your Arnold or Redshift shaders, that's also fine. But I'm not so much focusing on the texturing. The only time I would really care is like maybe, again, if everything is like super hardcore Lambert and like because of the shading you like can't tell what's your character and what's the background, then I might just like throw a random color on it. But yeah. Any other questions? All right, cool. So that is your assignment for this week. Huzzah. You wanna take